Assalamu alaikum viewers and students. Today is the ninth lecture in the lecture series on the subject of sociology. My name is Sir Mohammad Zeeshan. I am a lecturer in sociology. I am a PhD scholar and PPSC lecturer topper. Now our today's topic of discussion is family institution, its types and the concept of kinship. Now first of all we will look at what family is. Family is basically a social institution that is found in all the societies and that unites people in cooperative groups to care for one another, including children. Now, family has different types, some of which are mentioned here, like extended family. That is a family that is comprised of parents and children as well as other kin, also known as consanguine family, in which in most of the cases your elders, grandfather or grandmother, uncle and aunts and their children are living together in one family under one house, one roof. Whereas second type is nuclear family. That is basically a family comprised of one or two parents, that is husband and wife and their children, also known as conjugal family. Now, the concept of kinship basically means that these are the family ties or basically a social bond that is based on common ancestry, marriage or adoption. Now, marriage is basically a legal institution or you can say a legal relationship that usually involves economic cooperation, sexual activity and childbearing, all under that legal bond or relationship. Now, like I've mentioned before, marriage is a legal relationship. It has different types, some of which are mentioned here, like endogamy, that is a marriage between people of the same social category. Exogamy is the marriage between people of different social categories. Monogamy is the marriage that usually unites two partners. Polygamy is a marriage that unites a person with two or more spouses. For instance, if you can see, it has further subtypes like polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny is a marriage that unites one man and two or more women. That is more common in most of the Islamic countries, especially in Middle East. Whereas polyandry is a marriage that unites one woman and two or more men. Now this is a very rare case that we can find only in some of the very remote regions, especially in the Himalayan area, bordering areas of India, Nepal and Bhutan. Few tribes, they follow this polyandry system of marriage. Now residential patterns, according to residential patterns, there are three types of marriage. First is patrilocal, also known as patrilocality, a residential pattern in which married couples live with or near the husband's family, that is husband's parents. Whereas matrilocality is a residential pattern in which married couples live with or near the wife's family, that is wife's parents. And neolocality is a residential pattern in which married couples live apart from both set of parents, that is apart or away from the parents of both husband or wife. Now, second is the patterns of descent. That is, there are also three types of descent patterns in marriage. And descent is basically a system by which members of a society trace their kinship over generations. Now, these three types are patrilineal descent, a system tracing kinship through men, that is through father or grandfather. Matrilineal descent is a system tracing the kinship through women. And bilateral descent is a system tracing kinship through both men and women. And this is typically found where men and women belong from kinship or caste or you can say background of very significant importance. Now, third is the patterns of authority. According to patterns of authority, there are also three types. First is patriarchy, that is a system of male domination where decisions are made by male member or father in the family. Matriarchy is a system of female domination where decisions are made by female member or mother in the family. An egalitarian system is a system where both male and female members, they collectively make decisions in the family. Now, as far as the theoretical approaches or sociological perspectives are concerned, the family institution or the concept of family can be understood by applying these approaches on this institution. For instance, the level of analysis in structural functional approach, that will be macro level. In social conflict and even feminist approaches, that is macro level. while in symbolic interaction and social exchange approaches, micro level of analysis is usually utilized. And the importance of family for society, according to structural functional approach, it performs some vital tasks and it is very essential for the smooth functioning of society, especially in socializing the youth, providing emotional and financial support for members, and regulating the sexual activity. Whereas according to social conflict and feminist approaches, family basically sometimes perpetuate inequality, especially by handing down wealth from one generation to the next. Now that is the case with most of the rich and elite class people. Those who belong from rich families and elite class families, typically and naturally their progeny, their children will obviously be the beneficiaries of those wealth. And rest of the majority of the people, they will not be able to utilize the benefits of those wealth. Secondly, family supports patriarchy as well as racial and ethnic inequality, as is the focus of feminists. Most of the feminists, they basically supports that there should be equitable or just treatment between men and women. But especially in most of the traditional societies, third world countries, especially most of the Asian and African societies, we can clearly see that family basically supports male domination, and male usually have the upper hand in lot of cases. While as per symbolic interactionist and social exchange approaches is concerned, symbolic interactionist approach explains the reality of family life that is constructed by members in their interaction, while social exchange approach shows that courtship typically brings together people who basically offer the same level of advantages. That is, husband has something to bring to the table, whereas wife also has something to bring to the table. Now the next point is very important. Now, as far as stages of family life are concerned, family is a dynamic institution, and not does family itself change over time, but the way any of us experiences family changes as well as we move through the life course. Now, as you can see, some of the different stages of family life include courtship, that is when new families begin and evolve as the new partners settle into the realities of married life. Second is the development of careers and raising of children. For most couples, at least, come the years spent after that, leading to the later years of understanding the marriage. And fourth is after the children have left home to form families of their own. Now, these are the four major stages, and we will briefly look at each of these. You can see stages of the family life cycle can also be explained. For instance, beginning, after that childbearing, expanding, launching, empty nest, and aging. Now first is the courtship. Now in courtship, marriages basically they're you can say marriages can be conducted in two ways. First is the arranged marriage and second is love marriage or romantic love. Now if you can see that if you can see that arranged marriage, with most of us know that a marriage that is basically all the matters are arranged by the elders of the family, especially the parents of husband and wife, male and female. And in lot of the cases, especially in traditional societies, love marriages are basically conducted. Whereas second is romantic love or love marriage. Now this type of marriage is basically usually practiced in most of the developed nations, especially European societies, American societies, Western cultures. Whereas this trend over the past 20 to 30 years has been also been prevalent among the traditional societies, especially Eastern societies in most of the Asian countries or Eastern European countries, in some African societies that are little bit developed, and some South American countries. This trend is increasing day by day over the period of time. Now, basically, uh, love marriage occurs as a result of love between or on the basis of affection or sexual passion for the other person, and mostly young people, especially uh, when they face a lot of biological changes, especially during their college years and university life years, they usually find their life partner and usually marry young ages relatively, while only a small or few percentage of people find love, or they prefer love marriages, especially among their 30s or early 40s. So, on the other hand, because feelings change over time, romantic love is often considered as less stable foundation for marriage rather than social and economic considerations. Basically, in arranged marriages, lot of focus is on the social and economic considerations, especially the social status or the economic condition of husband or the male is preferred to be as stable as possible so that marriage can be as successful. Whereas in love marriages, especially among the partners, social and economic considerations are on the least priority, and as a result of that, unfortunately, divorce rates are much higher, especially in United States and in those countries where a lot of love marriages are being conducted. So most people fall in love with others of the same race, comparable age, or similar social class. And society arranges marriages by encouraging homogamy, that is literally like marrying like. Uh, Again, in most of the arranged marriages, the preference is to marry the person that have the same social characteristics, whereas in love marriage, this trend is rarely being followed. Now the second stage is settling in especially ideal and real marriage. Our culture gives the young an idealized happily ever after picture of marriage, and such optimism can lead to disappointment, especially for women who are taught to view marriage as the key to personal happiness. And also romantic love involves a lot of good deal of fantasy. We fall in love with others not always as they are but as we want them to be. Sexuality too can be a source of disappointment. So as we can see, in most of the love marriages, the person lives in idealism and is very far away from tough realities of life or marriage. However, only those love marriages get successful in which both the partners they realize that now marriage is a separate thing and it has a lot of responsibility. Whereas in most of the arranged marriages that are also considered as real marriage, both the partners know that now they are in the agreement of marriage and they have to accept all the responsibilities that is expected of them. So as we can see that the concept of romantic haze of falling in love, endless sexual honeymoon, etc., etc., all time consuming passion, the frequency of marital sex over declines over the period of time. So as the reality starts to hit, especially in romantic love or love marriages, then uh, problems generally arises. But if the partners are mature enough, they can typically solve those problems. Now there is a concept of infidelity, that is sexual activity outside of one's marriage, is another area where the reality of marriage does not match to our cultural ideal. Now in you can say in at almost 100% or more than 95% of the cultures around the world or societies, infidelity is unacceptable trait. This is where usually either the male or female partner cheats his other partner, especially when they both are in marriage. So, also known as cheating, this can cause a lot of problems in marriage for those couples. Now, the third stage is the stage of child rearing, especially as the partners meet and they have children. And this usually takes place after 2 to 3 years of their marriage. And basically, it is also a very tough duty where both of the partners had to put in a lot of effort for raising their children, especially if you can see in United States, uh, ideally two children are considered as ideal and few people want more than three. This is a big change from 2 centuries ago where 8 children were the average, and big families pay off in pre-industrial societies because children supply needed labor, and people therefore regard having children as wise duty, and without effective birth control, childbearing was a regular event. So as you can see, the average size of the US family dropped steadily during the 20th century to one child per family. And the trend towards smaller families is most evident in high income nations, especially European and Western countries. Now, the fourth stage is the family life in later life, and especially with the increasing life expectancy, especially if you can see in United States, means that couples who remain married will stay together for a long time. And about 80, 60 years of age, most have finished the task of raising children, and marriage brings a return to living with only a spouse. Like the birth of children, their departure by creating an empty nest requires adjustments, although a marriage often becomes closer and more satisfying. Years of living together may have lessened a couple's sexual passion, but understanding and commitment often increase. And personal contact with children usually continues because most older adults live a short distance from at least one of their children. One third of all US adults, that is 56 million, are grandparents, and most grandparents help with childcare and other responsibilities. Especially among African Americans who have high rate of single parenting, grandmothers have an especially important position in family life. And the other side of the coin is that more adults in midlife now care for aging parents. Now, the last stage is the death of a spouse. The most difficult transition in married life comes with the death of spouse. Wives typically outlive their husbands because of their greater life expectancy, and they usually marry men several years older than them, and wives can thus expect to spend some years as widows. The challenge of living alone following the death of a spouse is especially great for men, who usually have fewer friends than widows and may lack housekeeping skills. Now, what are the different transitions and problems faced in the family life? First and foremost is the problem of divorce. Unfortunately, this trend has been rising over the past few decades, and some of the reasons for this is that as a result of a lot of these things, married partners they get separate or end their relationship. This can be due to individualism, a romantic fading of romantic love. Women are getting less dependent on men. Today's marriages are considered as stressful. Unfortunately, divorce is becoming socially acceptable, and legally getting a divorce is easier. So, along with that, another transition or issue is the concept or the problem of remarriages and blended families. Uh, Unfortunately, if you can see in American societies, 3 out of 4 people who divorce, they remarry, especially within 4 years. And more than one third of all new marriages are now remarriages for at least one partner. Men who benefit more from wedlock are more likely than women to remarry. And remarriage often creates blended families composed of children and some combination of biological parents and step parents. With brother, sister, half siblings, a step parent, not to mention a biological parent who may live elsewhere and be married to someone else with other children, young people in blended families face the challenge of defining many new relationships and deciding just who is part of the nuclear family. Parents often have trouble defining the responsibilities for household work among people unsure of their relationships to each other. When the custody of children is an issue, ex-spouses can be an unwelcome presence for people in a new marriage. Although blended families require that members adjust to their new circumstances, they offer both young and old the chance to relax rigid family roles. Now, another issue is the issue of family violence. Ideal family is a source of pleasure and support. However, disturbing reality of many homes is family violence. Now, this can be emotional, physical, sexual, or abuse of one family member by another. There are different types of family violence. First is violence against women, that is emotional, physical, and sexual abuse of women by male members of the family is violence against women. Another form of this violence is known as marital rape. Uh, Law defined wives as the property of their husband, so no man could be charged with raping his wife. Unfortunately, this is a very taboo type of a concept, but in some couples, unfortunately, the female partner, she usually understands this thing that she is becoming a silent victim of marital rape, and sometimes she is aware but keeps quiet so that not to cause problem for her male partner. However, all states have enacted marital rape laws. Now this I'm talking about United States. The law no longer regards domestic violence as a private family matter, and it gives victims more options. Now, even without a formal separation or divorce, a woman can obtain court protection from an abusive spouse, and all states have stalking laws that forbid one ex-partner from following or otherwise threatening the other. Now, the second is violence against children, especially by any family member. Family violence also victimizes children. It can be physical injuries, abusive adults misuse power to trust, damage a child's emotional well-being in ways that may last a lifetime. Child abuse and neglect are most common among the youngest and most vulnerable children. Although child abusers conform to no simple stereotype, they are slightly more likely to be women, especially young girls 54% and young boys 46%. But almost all abusers share one trait, having been abused themselves as children. And research shows that violent behavior in close relationships is learned. In families, violence begets violence. If a child is a victim of violence, he will, when he grow up, he will definitely, because of his own tragedy, might try to repeat that tragedy on other children. Now, last but not the least, alternative family forms. This is because of the emerging and different family transition and trends that are uh, found in our societies. First is the one parent families, especially those families in which there is only one parent to look after the children, and in most of the cases they are females. Second is cohabitation, that is sharing of a household by an unmarried couple. Research shows that children born to cohabiting couples are less likely to live with their both biological parents. Third is a very controversial type of a concept, that is the gay and lesbian couples. In some states like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and New Hampshire, Iowa, New York, and District of Columbia, same-sex marriage is allowed. However, in a lot of other states and in majority of the societies or countries around the world, it is considered as illegal. Gay men and lesbians form long-lasting relationships and increasingly are becoming parents. They adopt children, as they cannot, same-sex marriages, you cannot have children, so these couples adopt children. Now the last is singlehood. 1 in 4 households today, up from 1 to 10 in 1950, contains a single person. The number of young women who are single is rising dramatically, a result of women's greater participation in the workforce and lessened dependence on men for their material support. So that will be all for our today's lecture. Do like and subscribe for more such videos. Until then, Allah Hafiz.